Hey, peace and blessings, family. Happy Traditional Tuesday. It is your sister, Rolanda, in the building. Excited. It's Tuesday. It's Traditional Tuesday. So I totally look forward to hearing from, our wise folks in that traditional way to the path kind of information that I think a lot of us are desperately needing in these times that we live in. So it is Tuesday. Happy Traditional Tuesday. And this is Traditional Tuesday, Way to the Path. And I always have to give a shout out to my homegirl Danielle, because it was her who coined that Traditional Tuesday. And on Traditional Tuesdays, where you get to wear your traditional garb to wherever you do, work, school, whatever. And excuse me, she introduced that to me. And I thought it was just like a wonderful concept. Like, wow, like even though I dress like this every day for the most part, but there is something about how do we help Black folks reintroduce them back to their own tradition. And Traditional Tuesday, excuse me, setting aside Traditional Tuesday to do that, I think is absolutely the bomb thing to do. So I'm very excited. So this morning I'm supposed to be interviewing a Queen Mother. We heard from her last week with her and her husband on the Great Continuum, looking at Black marriage. And their interview was awesome. Like, I really, really enjoyed their interview. And so today she's going to come and talk to us today. And this is Iya Ifayemi. And I want to make sure I'm saying people's name correctly. So I barely speak English, or the proper English. And so as I do these interviews, I'm learning a lot myself. I'm learning a lot. And today she's going to talk about how do you make the transition from traditional, or not even traditional, but religion the way we know it, whether it's Christianity or Islam, into African spirituality. And what they call it is African-Centered Universalism. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation, because I feel like it's very timely. And I feel like, as we live in these times, we should be really thinking about, well, what does that mean? How do you transition from one, religion to a spiritual practice? And are the two interchangeable? Sometimes I look, peace there, sister. Sometimes I look inside of African spirituality the way that I know it, and I do see hints of Islam, and I do see hints of Christianity. And it, or I don't know, maybe it was borrowed or saved, crossed over, or whatever. So we're going to talk about that today. What does that mean? I think Africans in the diaspora we have a lot to offer. We have a lot to draw from, if you will. But I think the part that is kind of missing is this thing around energy. And so today, when I get a chance to talk with this sister, we'll be talking about, how do we make that crossover? How do we make that crossover? How do we pull things that worked in certain religion into spirituality, if that's at all possible? I don't know if that's possible or not, because I'm just kind of like one of those people who for me, everything is energy. So when I'm looking at things, I'm kind of trying to see, how do I make this work where I am right now? How do I make on this Traditional Tuesday, how do I carry over all of these great traits that my ancestors have bestowed upon me? How do I carry those things over? How do I not carry things over that probably didn't work well? How do we have traditions? And, some traditions work very well, and some traditions we should probably never see again. And this is, so I'm really, really looking forward to this. Peace, dear Queen. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So I'm waiting for dear sister to get online here. But I'm just very excited, because I think these conversations of looking at African spirituality and religion, and do the two overlap, or, is it possible to switch from a Western traditional, I don't even know what to call that, religions to more spirituality-centered, African-centered way of living? Because to me, spirituality is how you live your life. It's not something you do 1 or 2 days a week. It's something that you live and you breathe, and it's in your lifestyle. And so I'm really curious on this Traditional Tuesday to find out is how do we do that? You know, peace. Thank you, sis. Peace. So I'm really, really, really looking forward to this conversation. So I'm trying to see where sister is so we can get her on this line and get this conversation going, because I think it's one of those timely conversations. I know when I was in Africa and in Ghana in particular, and we were all getting readings, I noticed that when, so we went to a couple of places. One place we went for a reading, one of the young ladies went to get a reading, so that's where she went. This guy was a Muslim. You know, he was a Muslim. However, he also, you know, did readings. You know, he, you know, we went into his home and, you know, and his temple, if you will, and he, you know, through the stuff he had, you know, and did the reading was off the chain, but he was a Muslim. So here we have a Muslim man, you know, African man, Muslim, but also doing a lot of traditional, doing the traditional reading, you know, where he was throwing bones and other objects, and, you know, and the reading he did was just, I was amazed. I was totally, because I've never seen nothing like that before. So here's a man who was a right out Muslim, but yet, you know, when he did his reading, it was not an Islamic reading. It was literally a spiritual reading. So again, I mean, this is Africa. So, you know, I don't know if religion is something that we use for survival, or if you have some thoughts, chime in. If it's something that we do for survival, and then we really do our other stuff, you know, our more rooted to the ground stuff in the privacy of our homes, because maybe it's not safe for you to practice that. You know, the reading, and when I was there, I got a reading from a woman who was a voodoo priestess in Togo. She was just a traditionalist, so, you know, but it was just really interesting, you know what I mean, to see how do we survive, and why do we necessarily have to live that way where we can't feel free enough to practice our beliefs of our ancestors, you know, or for mothers and fathers. So I think this conversation is very timely. I think this conversation is definitely needed. Yeah, I just really think that it is something that we should be looking at in terms of spirituality. Okay, so let me find out what's going on with this sister, y'all. Give me just a minute, because I'm really, really excited about this topic, and I feel like we have to, we have to have this conversation. So happy Traditional Tuesday again. And today we're supposed to be talking about how do we make the transition from Christianity or Islam or whatever it is that you practice as a religion into African spirituality, and what they call is African-Centered Universalism. So I'm like, wow, okay, that sounds great. So I'm really looking forward. So let me find out where this queen is. Let's see. Let's see, family. Let's see what's happening here. Anybody know me? I still be trying to get this in, so I got to send her a text message. I'm not exactly sure what's going on now, because we did talk to each other this morning by text. So let's just see what's going on, family. So I hope y'all all had a great King Day. Another ancestor. Yesterday was my Aunt Winnie's birthday. She's an ancestor. So January, we have a lot of people in our family born. My Uncle Stanley's birthday is on the 27th. My Uncle Billy's on the 31st. They're all ancestors. So sometime this month, I'm going to throw a nice party for all of them in my home. So I just moved into a new home. So, you know, had to do all of that over the last 4 days. There's been a lot of moving going on and a lot of throwing stuff out. So I am happy and grateful to be here on this Traditional Tuesday. Also, two young queens that I work with just returned back from Africa. They took 23 people. This movement is called West to West, and these are two young sisters who are taking people from the West Coast, you know, anywhere in the West really, to the West Coast of Africa. So they just came back from taking 23 people here, African Americans, to Ghana. And so I'm gonna get a chance to talk with them too and ask them how their trip went. But this is like, I think they're like the 5th or 6th trip for them personally, but these are young sisters. One is 21, the other one I think is like 23, 24. And they're on a mission, and I just really, okay, cool, okay. Thank you, Baba, thank you. So I'm gonna keep it going till she can sign on. Thank you so much. So they just came back, and so I had a really good conversation with them, and they're basically also wanting information on how to strengthen their own. I get this a lot from young people. How do they strengthen their traditional and spiritual beliefs? Because they're learning. However, what I love about these young people is they're very smart. So they pick up on some things like, I want to learn more about African traditional spirituality, but I don't want the dogma. I don't want to, because some of them, for the most part, these two young ladies, they do come out of the Christian background. And they was like, I want to really learn more. I always refer people to books, and they get a reading or two. I refer them to do readings or whatever. But I try to. I don't necessarily refer them to houses and stuff like that, because I don't do politics either. But I tell them to study and to let the ancestors guide them, to let spirit guide them, and whatever feels right for them, they'll know it. You know what I mean? They'll know it. Because I don't really vouch for people's stuff like that. I just think that, that west to west is, okay, so what is west to west? So west to west, let me see if I can get some information, because that's something that these two young sisters is on a roll. And let me go to, the one sister name is Takara. And I just, this young lady is like, she has a lot of queen mothers in her life, and she is like the bomb. Okay, let me see. I'm going to pull up, here we go. Let's get some west to west stuff up in here so y'all can get to know who she is. But, okay, there you go, queen. Bam, hold on. Let's see, y'all. Let me see if I can get this in here. All right, queen. And while we're trying to get you on, I'm going to get some information on this Takar. They just released the video, because she's also an artist as well. But let me see if I can find this for y'all. Give me just a minute. Because the West West, they take young people, they take people, period, African Americans, over to Ghana. And they just came back. They took 23 people to Ghana. And it was fantastic. And, I just love them. Like, I'm always, I support young people on the journey. Peace, Queen. How are you?
Peace. I'm good.
Good. Greetings to you and your family. I just was talking till she come on. I said, I'm going to talk till she come on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
No
yes,
worries.
I was having issues.
I am so excited about this conversation. I'm so excited. So this is like going to be a really good conversation. And your topic, or what we're going to try to talk about mainly, is how do you make the transition from whether it's Christianity or Islam or whatever it is that you're practicing into African spirituality. And you guys coined the term African-Centered Universalism. Right.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What has been your journey to the path you're on now? Give me some of your background.
Well, growing up, we were kind of like seeing me Christians. My grandmother made us go. She didn't go a lot, but she did make us go Christmas, Easter. She sent us on our way, so we would go. But I do remember reading Psalms and Proverbs a lot. She made us read those significantly. So I know those by like the back of my hand. I got into the church when I was about 19. I was a teenage mom of two, and I found myself needing some guidance, needing a support system and family. And I met this beautiful church family, and they took me in. So I was there for 16 years. I raised all my children, all three of my children in the church. When I left, my daughter was about 16, 17. And it was a beautiful church. Like I said, they were very progressive church here in Fort Worth, and they spoke from a real progressive kind of way, and it was all about it was a real intimate relationship with the Creator, and it wasn't I've heard a lot of other, testaments about what their church life was like, and I can't say that I know I experienced that. I would have to say what took me transitioning from church to where I am now was just seeking knowledge. I am a knowledge seeker. I ask questions, and that's what I did in the church. I things didn't it was kind of contradictory in the Bible, so I would ask questions of why this and what about this, and I could get some questions, some answers, but not a lot. So, and I would even go research other avenues, other books dealing with Christianity. It just didn't, it wasn't enough for me. So I decided to just seek some other avenues. I started looking into the nation. I met my husband, my now husband, and he was in, he had some ties with the Nation of Islam, and he would even talk about the Baha'i faith. He would talk about, things of African spiritual systems, and it intrigued me. So, I left the church for a while. I didn't go anywhere else. I was not in another church. I was not in another in a place. I was at home, really seeking what could be my next avenue. I was I didn't know, it was conflicting kind of, but because I felt like I was betraying a faith and a system that was so good to me and my family. So I didn't know what to do. So I needed something really to feed me because it fed me. And once my husband and I began the Temple of New African Unity, which is a unified spiritual based system that is where everyone came together, is something we started. And it was some place where Christians could come, Muslims could come, people that were in the Yoruba faith, Rastafari, or just knowledge seekers. So we started that, and it was a place where our faith was Black unity. That was our faith. And so that was great for me because I felt free to be and ask all the questions I needed to ask, and to really be free to seek other things and not feel like I was betraying one particular faith. And so I noticed while there was some, we would kind of gather different people, and they would share their rituals and their spiritual systems, the way they would do things. And I kind of was led to Ifa, which, in those who don't know what Ifa is, and it's one of the oldest African spiritual systems that in Africa, in the motherland, and it's a West African tradition from Nigeria, and so from the Yoruba land. So I picked that up, and I fell in love. My spirit was just kind of really in tune with that because of I am an emotional person. When I was in church, I love to praise and worship, and with Ifa, it's very passionate when they get into the worship, into the drums, and so that's what fed me. So and that's where I am now. I'm really just in a place where I'm just seeking out. My husband and I, when we say Pan-African Universalism, is because we are children of the diaspora. We are the Africans of the diaspora. We don't know exactly where we come from. So we take a little bit from everywhere, and whatever speaks to us, whatever works with us, whatever, just like with, the Nation of Islam, if you're doing your getting up in the morning, and you do your at 5 o'clock in the morning, you do your prayers, and if that works for you, once you leave the nation, keep those rituals, keep those traditions that resonate with you and stay with you and that help you. So that's where I am. I hope that wasn't too lengthy, but that's where my
No, that gives us a lot of good background. So in your Christianity, are there things that you are taking from Christianity that you use in your African spiritual tradition that you're practicing now?
Yes, ma'am. I still read from the Bible. I read, there are, again, Psalms and Proverbs, because I've learned that a lot of those Psalms and Proverbs came straight off the walls of our ancestors, straight off the walls of Kemet. And so I bet those things resonate with me. And I take a lot of the scriptures, and I know them to be, there can be international, universal principles and values that if you look at them, if you go from faith to faith, they're somewhere in there as well. They're always in all those faiths. So that when they hold true to me that way, I take that. I also the music. I keep some of the music, and I just have learned to take those words, maybe the language, maybe that, because I learned that the energy that I was giving was true. The energy and the feelings that I was expressing and that I was feeling, that was intimate, that was true, that was legitimate. I was just directing that energy in the wrong place. You know what I'm saying? So there were a lot of us when we saw Jesus or God, it was a white face or a white image, and that's where that energy was going. And so now I still, again, sing those songs. I replace the word Jesus with maybe Eshu, which is a deity in Yoruba, or I say my ancestors or my creator when it says God, and those songs still hold true to me. There are a lot of songs that just makes me lifted and lifts my spirit. So yes, I do the songs, I do the scriptures. The praise and worship is still the same. That's what we do when we're anywhere. When we're singing the hymns and the songs, it's praise and worship to your Creator, to whatever deity that serves you at that time. And I'm trying to think anything else that I take. Probably the rituals. That when they do the communion, that's something that when we go to our altar, we feed our ancestors. For those of you that are in the ancestor veneration or in Ifa, that's what we do. That's the same thing so a lot of that stuff translates over to where I am. So yes, to answer your question, yes, ma'am.
So does the same thing ring true for Islam?
I believe so. Because, like I said, he spent a lot of time in the nation, in Islam. So forgive me if a lot of the words I may not say the right word. The prayer is when you do your. Okay, so we do that together. We'll switch it up. Some mornings we'll read from the Quran, and we'll do our salats together. We'll wash our hands, wash our face, and wash our feet, and we'll face eastward, and we'll say the prayers, and we will. We'll get down and we'll pray and we'll do that. So I think that and even the no smoking or whatever it is, not eating certain things, eating the pork, those things come over. They can not only be spiritual based or faith based, but they can be a life changing or a life what's the word, a something that you take into life. That's something that you can use. That can be a lifestyle, something that you do, throughout your lifestyle. So, yes, the answer, I think it stands true for Islam. I think it can stand true for Rastafari. I think it stands for those who practice Kemetic sciences. I think it can all translate. Whatever, again, like I said, whatever resonates with you, whatever stands true to you, and whatever makes you a better African, you do that. Because your energy is, you now know where your energy is going. You now know where to direct that. And until you move on to the next phase of your spirituality, whatever it is, that's what you do. And that's what you'll take. Some things you'll drop off, some things you'll keep. Just like, Honorable Elijah says, dirty glass, clean glass. Whatever reigns true for you, that's what you take. That's what you keep, and you use that.
Right on. So let's look at this. So you talked about Black unity as a faith, which I think is incredible. I was like, wow, that's beautiful in itself. When you look at things sometimes in the Black Power movement or, radicals or whatever, sometimes it can appear that they don't have spirituality mixed in their concept. So it looked like you're talking about these two things being together, right? How do you do that though? How do you build a movement and have, be in the struggle, but also integrate spirituality, not religion, but spirituality in it?
Yes, ma'am. Because we, with the New Temple of New African Unity, again, we believe that our faith, our belief system is Black unity. And we believe that one of the oldest spiritual systems is the African family. And so we tend to draw in those people and those people who believe in the unit of family and that as a spiritual system. And we believe as well that whenever we go do anything in a community, whether we serving, going to march, whatever your activism is, if you're speaking, if you're standing your ground, that your faith has to be in a spirit, in a God or a creator that holds you up. So you cannot go anywhere without your ancestors being behind you, without somebody having your back. Even the Dr. Martin Luther King, we just celebrated his essence on yesterday, but his birthday was on January 15th. Malcolm X, all Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, those are people who are now no longer in this physical realm, but are in the spiritual realm. So they are with us, and we call upon them for their energy, for their knowledge, for their wisdom. I believe that we always have had our spirituality has been the forefront of any battle, of any activism. You look at the independence of Haiti in 1804. They spoke of, they did spiritual work first. Those who they went out first to do the root work, the rituals, before they even raised a machete, before they even went in and killed anyone. And I believe that's with all nations, the African battles. Even in the Bible, it states that before they went out, they sent out the singers, they sent out the drummers, they marched around the towers of Babylon, whatever. They sang and they spoke words of praise and worship before they went out to do any kind of battle, before there was any bloodshed. And I learned that in our African tribes that on the motherland, a lot of the battles were done with singing and dancing. There was no bloodshed. If whoever was loudest, or whoever sang the best, or whoever drums were the loudest, that's who won that battle at that time. So I would have to say that spirituality goes hand in hand, and we have tended to separate that. And like you said, that has what's caused a lot of, I guess, failure, detriment, and things of that nature, because we have separated, and we can't go anywhere without our spiritual system, without our ancestors, without our creator, without those things that hold us up and that keep our faith strong. You see, if I'm making sense.
You are definitely. Baba says there's never been a mighty African nation that wasn't spiritual at its roots. I totally agree with that. Sister Marcia says, are there specific groups of people that meet in Sacramento and in Dallas, Texas? I'm in Sacramento, and I don't really know of any groups. I know we have Wose with Minister Imhotep, but I don't really, I can't really say that. California in itself is a different type of animal. That's all I can say. What about in Dallas, where you are?
Yes. In Dallas, there are a variety of places and people that meet. Again, we met in Fort Worth, which is not far from Dallas, for over 8 years. But I do know that there are still groups that meet up at the Pan-African Connection in Dallas. I believe it's in South Dallas, off Marsalis, if she's familiar with Dallas. We have smaller pockets that meet up for a spiritual, for spiritual faith. Again, there are probably a lot of Elays, which is like a group within the Ifa communities. But I know the largest and that mass of us that met up was in Dallas, was when we were meeting up for the Temple of New African Unity in Fort Worth. And now that we are here in Houston, we do it online, but I know that there are places in Houston that meet up at the Shrine of Black Madonna. They make the Christianity, and they make it a kind of more of a African-centered Christianity. And I believe there are some that may meet at the Shape Community Center here in Houston. So I believe there are those that are in Texas that are starting to pop up more so. And that's what I know so far.
Baba also said the Haitian Revolution is a spiritual revolution. Right on. Been to Haiti a few times, and man, like it's all over the place. Yeah. But I also know in spirit and revolution is not this beautiful thing. Like I think sometimes struggle makes people kind of shy away because it doesn't mean you're going to be victorious in terms of the way we think of riches. You know what I mean? And the concept of the physical. And I think sometimes that's
Yes.
why, like when you see prosperity preaching, and that being very popular, there's not really spirit in that. You threw out what are the elements of African spirituality, and what are the elements of being an African? There has to be some kind of elements to this, things you should be looking for.
Absolutely. Elements to African spirituality, I would have to say, um, definitely the first thing would be ancestor reverence or ancestor veneration, lifting up the ancestors, um, um, speaking to them, communing with them, I should say, every day, whether it's meditation, whether you just light a candle and you look at the pictures, a lot of us, we hear ancestor veneration or ancestor reverence. A lot of us shy away from it because we think it's, some form of voodoo or hoodooism or something that way. But every Black person has pictures of their Mima or their grandmas or their papa, and they light candles, not knowing that you are revering your showing reverence to your ancestors and that you're venerating them by setting up those are altars that you're setting up. So that's number one. I think number two is being committed and doing whatever it is that you need to do by spending time, again, meditation, doing those, seeking knowledge. I think I would let me slow down because sometimes I tend to get ahead of myself because I get so excited. So let me slow down and say number two would have to be seeking knowledge, seeking out the ways of our ancestors, seeking out the ways of our elders and how they went about practicing in the African spiritual systems. And again, Ifa is just one of them. There are many. Ifa is one. And I would say seeking that knowledge and learning how to do those things, those rituals, those things that they do, and speaking whatever the language is. If you picking up certain words, a part of that language, you take that in. And I think that the third thing for me is going to be, and this probably should have been number one, is really what your heart intent is. What is your heart's intent?
Mm-hmm.
What is your intent? What you're doing and what are you taking into that spiritual system? Some other, I think, keys would be, like I said, knowledge. So getting connected with someone who knows the ways of that African spiritual system, learning those ways, learning the energies behind certain deities, whatever those things that you call upon. There are, like for instance, in Ifa is there is Obatala, there is Orumala, there is Yemaya, there is Ogun, Oshun, Oba, you Oseyin, you have so many that are, but they all are. It's reference to energies that that is in the earth. Oseyin deals with the herbs. So people think that they say a lot that it's a myth that Africans were I'm not monolithic, but they go huh? What you say about? He's giving me words here. Polytheistic there. But that they believe that that's what they were, meaning they worship all kinds of gods and at one time, but it was not that. Is that they worshiped one God, one creator. They just saw them in everything. They saw the creator or creatress in everything that the trees was a symbolism of the creator. So learning those energies, learning the ways, I think that is also a level of spiritual African spirituality. Um, learning our history, learning our story is also another thing, another part of a level of African spirituality, because you have to know where you came from in order to know where you're going and where you are. You have to know that. You have to know how to connect with your ancestors. And when I say ancestors, I'm just not talking about my blood lineage. I'm also talking about our elders and our those are historical figures that came before us. So having to know that, and again, when you know that Ifa is not one. There's science. That Kemetic science may resonate with you as well, and there are other things that spiritual systems that are of the African motherland.
So Okay, so one of the things you talked about, you said ancestors. What are ancestors? What makes a person an
Ancestors,
ancestor?
ancestors again, dealing with my bloodline, are those of my family lineage that have transitioned or that are deceased. They're no longer here with us on on the spiritual realm. And so, and those are the people who I decide to honor every day. That, you know, you may get up, you know, a lot of times I would get up and say, you know what, I'm thinking that I may have dreamt of my grandmother, or I may have dreamt of my auntie, and I'm like, I want to cook a sweet potato pie, or I'm feeling like I want to drink some coffee. Those are things that that person may have done, or you may wake up and say, "Do you smell nicotine? I smell something," and no one in the house smokes,
Mm.
and you just those are reminders of that person that is no longer there with you. So ancestors are those, and the ancestors can also be a person that is not of your blood lineage, or that was not in your direct family line. They can be someone, just anyone who has, there is no longer with us on this spiritual realm, someone who has transitioned or that is now deceased.
So, in African spirituality, is there such thing as the devil? Is there this good and evil battle, or no?
I don't think there's a such thing as a devil per se in African spirituality. They believe that there's a duality within all of us and within everything. So there's a good and there's a or I guess I say what an enlightened and a not so enlightened within the African spirituality. And I think that for those who study Ifa, they would know that Eshu or Elegba is one of those deities that serve that. It's like that dual. It's something that serves as a duality, and it's that crossroads, make you choose. And I believe that within all of us there is a negative and a positive that we must choose at one point of time in our lives, or within our day. Throughout our day, we have to choose whether to go left or whether to go right, whether to go right, to do right, or whether to do wrong. So I think that that's where I love about African spirituality. There's no boogeyman within it. There is, it's always, it turns within. It makes you go back in, and it makes you go and realize that all starts with you. All starts with us. It's not about something that you look without or outward to say, ooh, there's just this mysterious or a mystical being, you know. So yeah, I don't think that there's a devil per se in African
Right
spirituality.
on, right on. Because I do see that something in religion that it has to be like, but you're talking about you got to be in concert. Like it's all energy and it starts with you. So I totally get
Yes,
that. Sister Marcia says Stolen
yes,
Legacy by George G.M. James is very enlightening with historical facts and the truth in regards to our culture, our cultural spirituality. What books have helped you most in your transition? Any books?
yes, I would have to say the circle, let not the circle be broken. With the circle being unbroken, that's one of the books by Dr. Marima Ani. And then there is the Civilization, the Destruction of Civilization.
Yes.
That's one of the books also, and definitely the one that the sister talked about with The Stolen Legacy by Dr. George G.M. James. The Sacred Woman with the Queen of Fua has helped me tremendously. Any book that's dealing with Ifa or Yoruba has helped me as well. All the little small pamphlets that they talk about different deities specifically, those have helped me. The transition as well. Dr. Muwada Ashby has some books that has helped me. They helped me transition. So I get a little bit from everywhere. And then let's see. I was going to say one specifically as well, but I lost it. But I'm sure to come back to me. But yeah, so those are some of the books that have helped me transition from faith to faith.
Okay, women's role in African spirituality. Is there do Africans struggle with misogyny and women being more oppressed, or it
Of course, yes, yes. When you, if you know, my great pastor from, you know, when I was in my Christianity days, he would always say that If you like chocolate ice cream before you got saved, once you got saved, you still gonna love chocolate ice cream. If you like big legs before you were saved, you still gonna love big legs. So what you taking it's like you're taking you're changing clothes.
Mm.
You know, you go from this set of clothing, baggy jeans, you know, tight clothes or whatever, wearing your dashikis and your head wrap, but you're still the same person until you decide to evolve. As you evolve, as you decide to work within and learn yourself and to learn those things that no longer serve you, get rid of those things that no longer serve you, then as you do that, then you become a more enlightened, more righteous, more balanced person. But I would say that all that's still here because a lot of us do not work with self. We do not choose to. We believe, you know, I would say, I'm God now, you know, and I make my own rules. And that's just plainly saying I can do what I want to say. I can call you a queen in this second instance and a bee in the next instance, you know. So we tend to lose our way with as far as thinking that we're no longer held accountable for the things that we do and the things that we say to one another. And that's not the truth. We are still held accountable.
First of all, thank you for your answer. That's number one, because usually people say, "Oh no, it depends." But you know, this is a human experience. You know, we're in cultures we
That,
in. You know, there are some people who use whatever
that,
religion to their detriment, or to, like I was always taught that so-called holy books can be used as a map to your liberation or a tool to your enslavement. It just depends on how you use the book. You know, how you work on yourself. That was a great answer. Usually people go into the now, but you was like, "Girl, please." You know, it really depends on the
okay.
person, which totally makes sense. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Baba says the oppression of women is one of these foreign infections. Ooh, my screen just jumped. Sorry. That damages African culture
That's,
and spirituality. Right on. Uh, with that being said, do you learn a lot from history? Like when I think of the Panthers, even the nation in the first dispensational resurrection, when you think about all of these black movements, because sometimes it feels like, this is
yeah.
going to sound like a general statement, let me say it this way, but it seems like we're the group that we don't necessarily learn from history. We'll be talking from right at this moment, but when I'm with Jews and other cultures, they're always making reference to what happened to them in the Spanish Inquisition or in the Holocaust. And you know, we don't even like, well, what happened with the Nation of Islam? Why did it fall the first time like that? Or what happened with the Black Panther Party? When, you know, like what happened? Do we not look at
Yeah.
those things like, this probably won't work, y'all, because we did this back in '68, and you know, do y'all do that at all in
Yeah.
the temple?
Yes, ma'am. I'm glad you asked that question because that's something that I love uh, to reference and say that I love to look back on what my those before me have done and learn from those. I'm one of those that I tend to. Sometimes I'm hard headed and I want to do things on my own, so I may want to bump my head. But, but a lot of times I'm looking at what others have done before me, and I say, no, that didn't work, or no, yes, that worked, and let's try that, or let's do this differently. So, and I met my husband and I, Baba, we always talk about, you know, I always want to say, or what about what the Panthers did? We need to learn what the Panthers did. What did Honorable Elijah Muhammad do? What did, you know, Fela Kuti? I'm
Right.
looking at everyone that we researched, and I'm like, what worked? What worked? And let's use it. And let's not reinvent the wheel. And that's what, and we tend to do that a lot within the Temple of New African Unity, is that we say what has worked for our ancestors and what have not. What has not, we don't, we leave it over there. And what has, we're gonna bring it in, and then those things that didn't work, we're going to see what we can do to try to build upon that, or even those things that did work as well, we're going to build upon and make it a better thing, make it something better, or make it work for us right now. Because a lot of things that work for our ancestors or our elders in the time that they were doing it may not work for us. We just may need to and, you know, enrich it, or maybe just add to it, you know, so that it will work. So yeah, you definitely right. I love that. That's why I started smiling, because you're right. A lot of times we say, well, we're going to do this for us. This is what's for us, without looking at what someone has done and what has worked for them or what didn't. And that's why it's there. History is there for us to take reference from, to make reference. It's not there just to say, oh, that was that time, that word for that time. No, you know, my grandmother had a saying. She would always say, "There's nothing new under the sun, baby. It's in cycles. We work in cycles, so things are going to come in cycles. So let's learn those cycles so that we can be prepared for it." You know what I'm saying? So yes, we do look at it. Study. We study knowledge. We study not just so we can regurgitate it, but that we can actually build upon it and actually learn from it and use it.
Right on.
Yes,
Right
ma'am.
on. I just hate a rerun. I mean, you know, it's like every 25 years, Black folks are still,
Yes.
you know, it's like this. It's like, oh, y'all, 25 years. Me and my homegirl Javon talk about this. Every 25 years, you can almost see it verbatim. Like it's just kind of like you can see it coming. You know, how do we? It's okay to see it coming as long as we're prepared to jump over that hurdle. Like I want to get further than the last generation. Like I want to really. That's why I was impressed with these two young sisters who took 23 folks to Africa. Like they worked on that for a year. You know. So, and they're young, they're like 21 and 23 or whatever, and they done been to Africa several times. It's like, it's nice to see us get further than we were the last couple of cycles, if you will.
I'm glad you talked about those young sisters because, you know, I have been guilty as well, saying that this generation is lost. I don't know what's wrong with this generation. Oh my gosh, they so weak. They don't want the knowledge. And that's a lie. There is always someone and some people that want to learn and want to do differently and want to better themselves and want to carry on the lineage that has been put on us, and to carry on our the wealth of knowledge and rituals and things that we have carried on always. So that's wonderful that those young ladies 20, 21 have been to Africa several times. I am 42 and I still have not grace the motherland, but I am going to this year or next year if the Creator says the same. We will. But I'm so happy, and it makes me know and be grateful that I have something to look forward to, that it's not lost on my children, you know, with my children or my children's children. We will win, a lot of the things that we do, and a lot of things that negatively that we do, and a lot of the things that we bring into the Black Power community or the conscious community, whatever we want to call it, it's just sickness that stems from our enslavement. It stems from us being still tied up and immersed into European society and the things that they do. The more that we're around them, the more that we're integrated with them, the more we try to be like them, the more we be like them, the more we imitate the things that they do, until it becomes ingrained into us, till we think, oh, this is just what we do. That is not that is not a part of your African lineage. That is not a part of your DNA. That is not a part of that. So I think that a lot of times when we recognize that, some people will say, stop blaming the white man. Well, guys, darling, we got to, because a lot of this stuff that we are doing and the way we are has come from over 400 years of enslavement and oppression from them. So why not blame them? So I'm going to. In one part, if you continue to study and you continue to build and speak and think about a lot of things that we do, down the line, if it's 30 minutes into your conversation, you're going to ultimately say, oh, that's because of what has happened to us because of the enslavement or the colonization or the oppression of the European society. So, they got to be the blame. They're the source. So.
Right on.
Uh-oh.
Okay, this is how we're flying over them, though. Because I refuse to believe our ancestors got to the Detroit River, to cross over to Canada. It was like, damn, we can't get across because the white man. They was like, we must get across because of this fool. You know what I mean? So I'm so with it. I think that's what so impressed me with these young ladies, is that they understand that, but they also realize that how powerful they are. That they had to have a plan be like, we're going to change this paradigm, because they don't come from conscious parents like that. They don't come from Afrocentric parents like that. They were like, once you get the information, and they're seeking it. But I think sometimes young people tend to have this way of seeing through the BS. Like like they'll ask me about wanting to learn more about African spirituality. Like, woo, child, you have to read some books. You gotta be observant, because I, like
Yeah.
it's because some of us use it to make money off of people. Like in the town I'm in, we have two Nigerian Babalawos who don't really rock together from the same place. It's kind of like,
Yes.
like it's great information, but it's like we're hot commodities. When you get a person of African descent here in the United States to get on board, we usually go all the way in. We usually be more down than the people who was born into this system. We
That's
become the
right.
system, like So
Yeah.
it's like,
And
wow,
I
I'm right there with you. I feel like, man, like we are right there. What is a Huru Academy?
The Uhuru Academy is a private, African-centered private school that my husband and I began back in 2010. We had started out prior to 2010 just doing Uhuru camps. Uhuru is Swahili for freedom, and so we would do freedom camps with on the weekends or in spring break or the Christmas break with a lot of children in the community. And we just noticed a lot of babies would come home, go home, and tell their parents, I need to go to school. I want to go to school. And so we decided, was like, well, let's make it a school. This is a need. We talk about all the time. Don't send your babies to the public school system and take them out and homeschool. But it's like, well, a lot of us can't take them out and homeschool them. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna complain about something. Let's have a solution for that problem as well. So we created a solution. We created the Uhuru Academy again in 2010, and we started out with 3 students, and one of them was ours. And so we started out with those, and we've over the years we have progressed to have over 60 students in our school. We've had volunteers out the yin yang. We've had teachers. We've had just and numerous wealth of information and knowledge and assistance from the community to help with the school. And we've graduated over about I would say almost 20, and I maybe just what's the word I'm looking for? I may be feeling the numbers a little bit, maybe a little higher, but we've graduated many to go on to college, and 2 of them were ours. Our babies are in college. My daughter is in her 4th year at getting her bachelor's. She got her high school diploma at 16. She got her associate's at 18, and she will be 20 receiving her, or 21, excuse me, receiving her bachelor's, and our son is in school as well. So we've had many. We love putting it out there for the young folks to receive and to take it and run with it for the next, taking that torch and going to do going the extra mile that we did. So that's why we started the Uhuru Academy. Right now we're strictly online because, again, we have transitioned to Houston, Texas. So and also we are online so that we can take more nationally. We have students from Florida. We have students that have been from Chicago. We have inquiries from Canada, from Ethiopia. So we will soon be internationally. But right now we're a nationally African-centered school that's online, and that's what we are. We teach. We also have Operation Reconnect, and that is a high school diploma where those who have stopped out of high school, from the ages of 16 on up, you don't want to get into the classroom. You may be 35, 40, and you may just want to have that as some kind of as a emblem or a something for your children to see that I've accomplished this. So you may want to come back and get your high school diploma. We are able to get help you get your high school diploma, and you have that. We put our own stamp on it. It's not sprinkled with little, European cracker dust. This is how, what I'm saying? So and we've graduated of hundreds of students from that program itself. So we're very excited about the Uhuru Academy family and the umbrella that we have. We have other things that are coming under the Uhuru Academy umbrella. So I mean, just put that online so you can go online and look at what other programs we
Right
have.
on. A sister says, why are people so scared to even approach their ancestors? That's a great question, especially if they haven't been the best in terms of, that they know of. Like, say in our community, we had crack run through our community, we had drug dealers. We've had a lot of stuff happening in our community, and so how do you know about those ancestors when they lived and maybe they hadn't given the best example?
Well, those are, that we call that, for the I guess the technical term, the malevolent ancestors, those that need to be venerated. When I said, spoke of it earlier, said ancestor veneration, that's mean to lift them up, to elevate them, to enlighten them. So you have to do some work. You would do some work for them, you know. By either, is it prayer, either by some kind of ritual, if you can look it up, or if you anything that comes in your spirit and you say, I want to do this for my ancestor, my aunt Boosie, or my uncle Jojo, that he may have been, he was a crack dealer or whatever, and you may want to do some things to kind of lift them up before you put them on your altar, so that that energy will maybe enlightened, or may be positive, and may be righteous. So don't be afraid of them, because they were still yours. They may have did some not so great things in the spirit. I mean, in the physical realm, but those are still your ancestors. And who to say when they transition over, they don't, I know that Christianity and society itself teaches us, once they go to heaven, or once they go into the light, they just automatically become this great and wonderful angel and guardian. No, that's not it. Their spirit is still the same. So you just have to help bring, enlighten them, bring them up. Speak of them, speak on them, bake a cake in their honor, do things like that, just to enlighten them. But I would say I haven't technically, this again, that's why we say New African, because I take what my spirit tells me, I take some things I've learned and what I think, and then my own common sense, and I say, this is what works for me, this is what it is. So someone may be on here and saying, well, that's not technically right, that's not what it is, but I'm telling you, this is what works for me. So I'm telling you, this is who are transitioning over and coming in. It's layman's terms. So I'm saying that's something that I've done, and that's what I believe, that's what you can do before you, for what I've learned, before you put them on your altar, for their energy to be there amongst those. That's what you can do. Don't be afraid of them. That's what I say. They have taught us, and I say they, society, white society, and those who say that's ugly, that's wrong. They have taught us to be afraid of everything of ours. Yet they take it and they twist it and make it theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So let's stop of what's ours. It's innately in you, your DNA memory. You know what works for you. You feel that is right. You know that that's right. Make it work. Take those things and apply them to your everyday life. Apply them to your faith, your spiritual, whatever works for you when you meditate or whatever. All those things, bring them in and make it work for you. There's no one thing until you get on. I say until you get in, you learn all that you need to know, and you're saying, okay, I'm ready to take on this one specific thing, and these are the things I'm going to go in line with what I've learned and make it that. I mix it all up, child. I don't know it, and until I get a whipping, until they say no, I mix it all, and it works for me. I love it, and until then, until the spirit says something differently, this is what I'm going to do. So I hope that answered it for you.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. The Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey, Harry Tubman Collective Ancestor University. What's that?
The Nat Turner, Marcus Garvey. What is that?
It says
look, I'm asking how many what that is. I think that, I don't know if it's an actual organization that's here. That's new to me. I have to look it up. If it's just an idea, it sounds great, because all of them were pioneers. Yes, they were all pioneers and revolutionaries that have pushed forward some ideas that others at the time may have been afraid to do, and they took it, and we're running with it. Those are people that we reverence. Nat Turner, in Christianity, that was our first pastor, and that's what, for the Temple of New African Union, we say that was our first and only, our only pastor. That was not only, but that was our first pastor of the Temple of New African Union, is the Right Reverend Nat Turner, because he was the first one who took the book that they meant to subdue us and to control us, and he meant it for our revolution. He took it and he made our revolution. He took it and he set his spirit and a lot of our spirits free. Marcus Garvey, Messiah Garvey, he is the founder of the RBG. He's the original RBG gangster, revolutionary but gangster. But that was the red, the black, and green. He developed the African liberation flag for us, those of us on the diaspora, from the diaspora. So Marcus Garvey, he was the first to build boats to send our people back. He had the idea that you're right. You want us to go back to where we came from? Good, we can go back. And he would help send millions of us back to the motherland. And so, and what was the other? I'm sorry, it was Marcus Garvey, Natural. Tubman, baby, that's my shero. Yes, that's one of the ancestors that I call out to every morning, because she garnered. She may have been one of many, but she was the one that made the most impact, so that we know about her. She took a lot of things that was meant to keep her bound. She had narcolepsy. She suffered from narcolepsy. She, was it may have been illiterate. She was, older at the time, but she took and freed thousands of our ancestors. She took them across the water and helped them go over to the Canada that you speak about, through Detroit and all that. And she has a saying that says that she would have freed thousands more if they'd have known that they were enslaved.
I know.
So these are people who have done miraculous and spectacular things that can help us, that we should be looking at, finding out about them, learning their history, learning the things that they've done and things that they've brought forth for us, and taking it further. Those are the people that we should know. So that collaborative, that's a great number of people that we could take and learn from. So that's what I give.
Your sister asks, have you ever tried to collaborate with Dr. Umar Johnson? Why or why not?
Yes, we have, Sister Wood. Before Umar Johnson became Umar Johnson, we met with him. He was a good brother. He came and sat with us. We build, before, we helped give him some more knowledge that he may now take and he used. But he came to Fort Worth with us, and we brought him down twice to help do some events that we had. And we worked with him. We brought him to the school. He spoke to a lot of our people in the community. He spoke to our children. Yes, that brother, we have worked with him on that level. And why we don't, and it was great then. Why we don't now? It's just that I think our ways of doing things don't match. So a lot of times when you disagree with the way things, with each other, the way you do things, or theology, then you decide to part ways, or he does his thing over there. He's a great speaker. He's great. He commands the stage. He's great. He great usage of the information that he has. And that's what he does. He's great at what he does. We're great at what we do. If we're able to come again, the doors are open. There's not an issue. We don't have an issue with Umar. We're here. We just stay in our lane. That's what we do.
Yeah, I think that's the other part of unity that we struggle with. Like, we can agree to disagree, and it don't mean we gotta go to battle or go to war, because we got other things we should be going to war on, both of us. So I thank you for that answer, because I think sometimes, it's sometimes for some of us, it's hard for us to have a disagreement with someone without making it be too deep. Like, it ain't even that deep. It's just like, hey, we can work together and we can't, and it's okay. Because the enemy does it every day. Like, Donald Trump is in office, and there ain't nobody going to war on this fool. They just going to figure out how, in a nice way, to move him to the side or whatever. But they ain't out there like blah, 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 blah in the street on this fool. And we know he crazy. So, in my closing argument, Lord, in my closing argument, what words of wisdom would you give to a young person that is on the path, to stay on the path and to strengthen their path to spirituality?
Some words I would give as far as to getting there. You're on your path, young person. Step into you. Always seek out an answer to a question that you have. If you stay a knowledge seeker, stay a student, stay humble. Stay humble. Keep self-accountability and stand firm and strong in who you are and what you believe. Not standing firm and strong as far as stubbornness, like this, the earth is flat and that's what I believe, that's what it is. But, and all those mixed together again is the duality. Stay humble. Be teachable, because you're all, even when you become a master of something, you still need to be a student of something else. Learn all things and all your, again, I go back to the Bible. In all things, in all things, learn. Be a student in all things. Be and when you, I, let me stop again. I get ahead of myself, and my words escape me, so I'm gonna go back. But stay true to you. Stay true to your ancestors. Look and be knowledge seekers. Stand firm in what you believe. Always being knowing that you're accountable for your actions, and you're accountable. Your ancestors hold you accountable as well for the things that you do, you speak, and the things that you don't do. If you're not obedient to the things that you know you should be doing, that's going to get you. That's your accountability, nobody else's. I would say, don't be stuck on one thing. Don't be stuck on one ideology. Don't one faith, one spiritual system. Be open to all, because we're all that. And that's the great thing about us being African. A lot of other, people they want to be a one person, one way people. That's because they can't work in duality, or they can't be multitask or multi. We are multiplistic people, so let's be that. Let's stay that. So stand true, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't think because you're just learning something and you feel and somebody told you to do it this way, and that don't reign true to you. Really reign true to you when you think about it, and it says, it's not my ego, it just doesn't sit well, then don't follow it. Do something else. Go seek another way. Go to another elder. You always get a second or third opinion. But I say this, just be self-accountable. That's one thing. Check your ego yourself, because it's hard when you're young. We're on fire. We're passionate, and sometimes we don't want to hear anybody else. If it ain't what I want to hear, then I don't want to hear it. Then you hate. You ain't on my level. So we just to stay accountable. That's what.
Right on. Sister, thank you so much on this traditional Tuesday Way to the Path. You gave such great information. I can listen to you and Bob. I can listen to y'all talk forever. Because you make such sense.
Thank
I always feel like spirituality should be just like breathing. It should be a lifestyle. It's not something you do on Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday morning. But it should just be your way of life. And so I thank you so much for taking time. And we'll talk again. Trust me, we'll talk again.
Oh, please do. I would love to. You have such a wonderful spirit. I love how you do things, and your topics that you have. So when I was watching you before you asked me to come, and I was like, I love her show. It's so real. It's so it's just comfortable, laid back. You take down. You don't put on this pompous attitude. So I love it, to say the least. I could break all day, but I just love to see when we're doing something for us, and we navigate in all walks of life, because that's who we are, again, as Africans. We roamed and went everywhere. We're global minded, national minded, and universal minded. So I love it.
Thank you, sis. I'll talk with you again soon.
Absolutely. You're welcome.